Hey there, I'm Reverend Nhien, founder of Evolving Enneagram. If you've been seeking a compassion-based contemplative approach to Enneagram inner work, you are in the right place. We are in the midst of a 52-week Sunday Talk series based on this book by Oren Sofer, Your Heart Was Made for This. And last week, we explored the topic of mindfulness and the Enneagram, looking at 9 barriers to presence based on your Enneagram type. And this week, we're still exploring the topic of mindfulness, but through the lens of how your type, your Enneagram type, orients to time. So, ready? Let's begin. So many of the mystics across all the world's religions have talked about this notion of eternity. And even the modern mystic, Eckhart Tolle, talks about the eternal now. So when he invites us into the present moment, he also equates it with a sense of eternity. And what I like about this is, well, in the Bible, there are 2 types of time that are talked about. One is chronos time and one is kairos time. And chronos time is literally on a chronology, right? So it's time that is counted by the seconds, by the minutes. It's time that we measure. It's quantitative in its nature. Kairos time, on the other hand, is almost like, from the Greek, it's translated as like the appointed time. We might even call it like heavenly time. And I like to think of it as time outside time. It's like time outside that timeline that we can often feel like little minions on, like this, okay, that's a type 3 little trooper across time, but like time outside of time where we touch the eternal, not as something separate from us, like I'm touching it up there, but touching the eternal within myself. And so the idea here is that when we start to look at time in these ways, we can recognize that our human incarnation inhabits chronos time. But there is always the opportunity in every present moment for a glimpse into eternity. From a unity perspective, we teach that the kingdom of heaven is not a place after we've died that we might go to if we believe the right people or the right things or if we do the right good deeds, but rather the kingdom of heaven is a state of consciousness that is available right here now, that the kingdom of heaven is in our midst. And for me, the kingdom of heaven is this experience, this consciousness of unity, of peace, of love that is available every second, if only I were available for it. And there are 9 ways we're just not here for it. We are kind of like lost in time, if you will. And so there's like, I would say the opposite of mindfulness is this mindlessness, when the type habituates in a certain way that where it really kind of drops us in one orientation in time. So let's look at the ways that this happens across the 9 different types. So for the assertive types, attention goes to the future. So you're actually focused on the future rather than being fully mindful and present and conscious and available for divine inspiration, guidance, resource in the here and now. We're not available because our attention is hyper focused on the future, and there's a kind of faithlessness in this, right? So the type 3 that has this illusion of itself as this separate doer that needs to ensure that the future looks a certain way, which is that a way in which you're successful, in which you have earned your sense of worth at some point, again, in the future, and all the activity and focus goes to ensuring that future goal is met, right? So for the type 7, there's a similar orientation for not trusting the unfoldment of, it's more like a future experience, right? That your future pleasure, that you're not limited and in a place of future pain needs to be ensured by your egoic self. And so there's a way in which that faithlessness prevents you from opening up fully to the gifts of mindfulness and allowing you to be in the present moment. So the eight's version of faithlessness in the activity of the divine unfolding is not trusting in the power of something bigger than you, because you tend to trust in your own power. And so there's something about your energy going to ensure that you always stay in power, that you're never in a position where you are powerless, when from a spiritual perspective that might actually be really good to kind of surrender and open to this larger divine power, but not trusting in that unfoldment. These three types tend to orient and place themselves in the future on this like timeline, right? So let's go to the past. The past oriented types are in the withdrawn stance, and those are the type 4, 5, and 9. And so in different ways, they can tend to have their focus of attention habituate on the past feelings, and that which perpetuates that, and this notion that the good is in the past, so there's longing for that for the 4. And then for the 5, there's this orientation toward past thoughts, like there's a hoarding even of knowledge related to what is known already, as opposed to opening up to the mystery of the moment. And so there's something to where the 5 is not fully available, not faithful enough to endure the a kind of openness to sacred mystery, if you will. And then for the 9, there's this comfort in the known that is very true of most 9s, where there's a story. Like 9s, okay, if you think about 4s, it's almost like hoarding negative feelings from the past. 5s can be seen as like hoarding knowledge or thoughts from the past, and 9s can be seen as holding on to stories and storylines from the past and recounting these stories in a way where all 3 types are disempowered to take action in the present moment because of this focus of attention. And so just they're not available for the fullness of their true power and their power to effect things in the present moment as well. And so there's a gift of strength and power and effectiveness that is available when you release the hold onto the past. Okay, finally we have what are called our dependent types. That's 1, 2, and 6, and they orient toward the present moment. But I want to be clear that we're not talking about like the eternal now, present, but we're talking about a location on that timeline rather than in kairos time, right? So by present moment, what I really mean is almost like the urgency or the tyranny of the present moment. So the tyranny of what needs to be fixed or corrected for the type 1, the tyranny of your special somebody's needs, that it's like it eclipses all else, and time is spent on that. Like that's what time seems to be for, right? And then for the type 6, time is often husband or kept for a kind of vigilance of attention, right? To safeguard against harm, a worrying kind of energy that all of these energies are, it's almost like they're like the tyrants of the present moment that keep the full picture, the full abundance or the fullness of time to be really held. So those are the various type orientations. Again, never let a teaching usurp your own direct experience, and you may or may not immediately relate to that of your number, but I encourage you to reflect on it, share in the comments below or in our contemplative Enneagram groups this week, and really consider whether your use of time is more like a commodity based, like where I have this finite amount of time and I'm spending it in this way. Is it commodity based like that? Or is there space for you to consider your relationship to time as a part of your faith practice? That how you relate to and how you treat time, right? Even time to be here and practice mindfulness, like how you relate to that is actually a testament to your faith in the unfoldment of goodness and beneficence, or the availability of it fully for you in this moment. So, blessings.